Okay, good evening everybody, and happy Saturday. Hopefully everybody's weekend is off to a fantastic start. Tonight on the live stream, well, I guess I'll tell you what date it is. It is August 13th, 2022. It's about 8:40 p.m. Eastern Time here in New York City. And tonight we are going to be walking around Midtown Manhattan, and we are going to be talking about renewable energies. Now, I know what you're thinking. Many of you think that ESG is nonsense. Many of you think it's the best thing since sliced bread, but I want to sort of approach it from a different angle here. Now, oftentimes on the stream, we'll talk about a concept that I like to call following the money. Okay, it's very important from an investment standpoint that you follow the money. You want to follow the government subsidy, you want to follow investment, because where investment flows and where money flows, usually capital will grow. And what we're seeing, especially out of the newly passed Inflation Reduction Act, which is pretty much like a green energy bill, because much of the taxes that are going to be raised from that bill are going to be poured into things like renewable energies, for tax credits, subsidies, not only for wind and for solar, but to hydrogen, clean hydrogen, so for hydrogen fuel cells and things like that. So tonight we're going to be talking about a select few companies that I think may benefit from the transition to renewables. Now, I don't want to make this a political stream. What I want to do is sort of have you guys and girls get into the mindset or the mind frame of follow the money. Where is the money going? Where is the government putting incentives in the economy for entrepreneurs to build new products and services, and where are the incentives for consumers to buy, right? So we're going to talk about different incentives for maybe purchasing new solar panels for your home and things like that. So I do want to talk about that today. Before I forget, if you want, if you type !1, so !1 in the chat, it'll drop a very, very well laid out link or a CNBC link to a YouTube video that sort of explains hydrogen power. Okay, so hydrogen power, specifically in the realm of hydrogen fuel cells to power vehicles, is an extremely, extremely controversial subject, especially among people in the EV space. Now, Elon Musk has come out and said that hydrogen fuel cell technology is called full cell technology. So Elon Musk obviously is the pioneer in electric vehicles. He doesn't like hydrogen fuel cell technology. He thinks there's many cons. It's cumbersome, it's expensive to produce hydrogen, it's very expensive to transport this, and there's not a lot of infrastructure yet built out for hydrogen. But I think the point of the tonight's stream is not to debate that. It's to see where the money is flowing, where the subsidy is flowing, and sort of talk about those different investments or aspect from an investment standpoint. But without further ado, everybody, let's check who we have in the chat tonight. I see Vinny Castellanos says, good evening, Tom. Hey, Vinny, happy Saturday. We have Jared Covey. We have Broken Bones 2019 saying good evening. We have Shauno says hi. Thomas, welcome. We have RJ joining in from Colorado. Lillian is here. I see Tea Cakes is here, says good evening, everybody. What's up? Lilla, Sally, Raphael. Mimi says good evening, the one and only British Gray from Tampa, Florida. Always a pleasure to see you. Teresa Diaz is here. Good to see you. Charlie Richardson. Gregory Tinman. Sunshine After Rain. Austin City Limits. Disney Matt Google is here. Says a Saturday night stream. I'm out in Long Island City right now with friends, but I still wanted to tune in. Thank you so much, Google. Appreciate that. For those of you who are busy tonight, for those of you who can't tune in for the entire stream, we will be having the stream recap posted on the YouTube community page because there's going to be a lot of good information. I see Brooklyn here, Steph Wright. Good to see everybody. Destructionist, welcome, welcome, welcome. I want to start off the stream really quick just to recap and read some of the pros and cons of hydrogen fuel cell technology. Okay, and then we'll sort of go into talking about why and where I see some good pockets here for investment. So the pros would probably be no vehicle emissions other than water vapor, right? So we're talking mainly in relation to EVs or electric cars. So no vehicle emissions other than water vapor. Fuel economy equivalent to about twice that of gasoline vehicles. Hydrogen is abundant and can be made from renewable energy. However, to be fair, right now, the majority of the hydrogen that is produced as of right now is made from non-renewable resources, which is a big issue. But obviously, as technology advances, there will be hydrogen produced from renewable resources. So let's get to the cons. So the cons is that it's really expensive right now. I mean, obviously costs are coming down, but it is still rather expensive. The acceptable range requires extremely high pressure, onboard hydrogen storage, few places to refuel, so that's a lack of infrastructure if you want to fuel up your car with hydrogen. Also, hydrogen is very, very expensive to transport. There's not a lot of infrastructure right now yet in place. Currently, hydrogen is made up of non-renewable energy and produces a lot of CO2 emissions. So we'll talk about that a little bit later tonight in the stream. Joseph is here, says, hey, good to see you. I see Daryl says, good evening, Tom, from Chicago, Illinois. What's up, Daryl? So we're outside the Flatiron District. Let me just put away my computer and we'll get started. We'll get to walking, everybody. You know what? Before we start, I want to just say thank you to everybody on the stream. Last night I didn't even realize it, but I believe the stream has now surpassed 18,000 members or 18,000 subscribers. So never in a million years would I thought that this sort of talk about finance stream would reach that many people. So I appreciate it. Thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to live stream for you all every night. I've been learning a lot, making a lot of good connections. So thank you for that, my friends. But check this out. This is the Flatiron building. Unfortunately, is still covered in scaffolding. Hopefully in due time they'll take the scaffolding down so we could see the beautiful facade of the building. Hey, Myra King says, congratulations, Tom, on 18,000. I appreciate it. It's really crazy. I never in a million years thought it would grow that big. So I've been having a lot of fun, so thank you guys. Robson Cruz says, hey everybody, greetings. Destructionist, welcome. Vinny Castellano, appreciate it. Stock Mark says, all in on fuel cell energy. Well, I think the point that I'm trying to make, so let me be clear, and I think this is important to make this distinction. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a scientist. I don't know what is going to be the most efficient energy source, right? And I think that's the whole point of the stream. I don't know. But one of the things that have helped me in my investment career and in life in general is this concept of follow the money. Okay, so what does follow the money mean in its simplest form? Well, usually the government will telegraph where they want investment, right? And they'll usually provide lucrative subsidies, lucrative tax credits to encourage or incentivize entrepreneurs to build products and services in specific areas. And if we think about this new Inflation Reduction Act that just passed, that went into effect, what is the one thing that we notice? Well, for me, I noticed that a lot of this new tax revenue is going to be poured into new infrastructure for EVs, new infrastructure for hydrogen fuel cell technology. You could think about anything from solar panels, wind energy. So that's where the money is going, whether we like it or not. I don't really want this stream to be about the politics of, oh, ESG is a scam, it's nonsense. The reality is, as investors, that's where the money's going. That's where the subsidy is. So consumers are going to be encouraged to spend in specific ways. So one of the ways I could explain that is in terms of solar panels, right? So with all of the subsidies, with all of the tax credits, let's say if you wanted to install solar panels on your roof, I think, let's say for example, it's going to cost you 20 grand to do that. If the government sees that you're doing the right thing, investing in solar, to try to reduce carbon emissions, well, guess what? You could probably write off up to $10,000 of that, or get $10,000 worth of credits, different tax incentives, and the like. So we're going to talk about some specific companies that I think could benefit from this. But before I go into that, what I wanted to note really quickly is, as this market has sort of rebounded here, right? So we've gotten a pretty big bounce in this market. I think the NASDAQ has rallied 20% from the lows. S&P 500, very similar amount. Dow Jones Industrial Average has rallied a little bit less. But what do we notice from a relative strength standpoint? Okay, oftentimes on the stream we'll talk about relative strength. Okay, and what I mean by relative strength is, what are the specific stocks in the market right now that are outperforming the indices or showing exceptional strength versus indices and other stocks? And right now it's a lot of the solar stocks, to be honest, right? Which has surprised me, but then again, the market tends to be a leading indicator, right? The market tends to be very forward-looking, probably about 6 months out. So it's very coincidental that stocks like Enphase is trading near all-time highs, has about a 99% EPS score, 99% relative strength score. Again, trading at all-time record highs. First ones to be breaking out of their respective bases, and we just got a huge piece of legislation passed that will provide massive amount of subsidy to the solar sector, to the renewable energy sector as a whole. So again, going back to my sort of thematic thesis here about follow the money, where are the incentives going? Where does the government want capital to be allocated? It seems over the next 10 years, that's in renewable energies. Hey, Steph Wright, what's up? Good to see you. Dolly Girl Twins, good to see you. Vinny Castellano says, I'm hooked on that show. I'm from New York also. Ooh, which show is that? I got to read the comments. Daryl says, Tom, public buses use hydrogen fuel. Yeah, so Daryl, that's a good point. You know, I think Toyota has came out with a car that runs on hydrogen fuel cells, but it's interesting because Elon Musk has been very outspoken. And I believe in an interview, he actually referred to hydrogen fuel cells as hydrogen fuel cells. Now, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a smart guy, I don't know which is more efficient. What I try to do is trend follow and see where that capital is flowing. I do see arguments on both sides, right? And I understand and appreciate arguments on both sides saying, look, hydrogen fuel cell technology is very cumbersome, the infrastructure is not yet put in place, it's quite dangerous, and as of now, EVs, the battery technology is getting a lot better, right? So before, in very early years of traditional EVs, where you just charge the battery, it holds a charge, you could probably go maybe 100 to 150 miles. But Tesla is projecting by 2030, you may be able to go 1,000 miles plus on a single charge. So look, I think there's going to be a seat at the table for both technologies. I'm really not in the business of debating which one's better or not. But if we follow the money, it looks like the governments want investment and want subsidy into both. But it's a good point, Daryl. Good to see you. Gennaro says, hey, Tom. Hello from Brazil. Love watching you walk through Manhattan. Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Happy Saturday to everybody. So we are in the Flatiron District right now. We are overlooking Madison Square Park in New York City. And if you look straight ahead, you'll actually see the Flatiron building. Unfortunately, it is all covered in scaffolding. Lila says Elon would poo-poo anything that cut into his bottom line. Yeah, so Lila actually makes a pretty good point. Okay, so that has been one of the arguments against Elon Musk when he sort of puts down hydrogen fuel cell technology. Because obviously Tesla does not use that technology, but what I want you guys to do is sort of keep an open mind here, and I think Lila makes a really good point that, you know, a lot of analysts on Wall Street say, look, of course he's going to downplay the advancements in hydrogen fuel cell technology because that is in direct conflict of interest with his product. Now that may be true and it may be not. I'm just going to say with full transparency, I'm not smart enough to figure that out. I mean, Elon Musk is probably going to be the world's first trillionaire, and he's arguably one of the most brilliant people to ever walk the face of the earth, so I definitely don't want to go toe-to-toe with him on that argument. What I can do as a regular, ordinary person is follow trends and see what's coming about. And Toyota right now is putting much investment into hydrogen fuel cell technology. I think there's going to be a seat at the table for both, and I think we can make money both ways by investing into companies that have both technologies. Hey, Mega's here, says hello from Dubai. Good to see you, Mega White. Welcome. Zabatata says Elon also said his cars have autopilot, announced a Roadster model that doesn't exist, and said 2 years ago he would hold Tesla shares forever and just sold billions of them, says Zabatata. Okay, so you think there could be a little bit of conflict of interest. Why should we trust Elon Musk? Because he always goes back on his word. Okay, I can respect that. Renten says one day you're gonna get a building named after you, Tom. What would it be called? The Walks on Wall Street building? What do you guys think? Check this out. This is, does anybody know what this is called? Is this called cornhole, this game? Christian Wilson says Ford and GM are already making better cars and batteries than Tesla, says Christian Wilson. Interesting perspective there. D12 says, wow, you walk every night? Well, we try to walk at least five nights a week. At least 5 nights a week. So everybody, one other thing I wanted to tell you really quick, which sort of sparked this topic of conversation on tonight's stream, is that if anybody reads Barron's, okay, which is a financial newspaper, a financial media outlet that is also in a collective of Wall Street Journal and Investors Business Daily and the like, I want you to take a look at the cover story today of Barron's. This is probably one of the best, well-written, compiled, and articulated articles I've actually read in a while. And from somebody that's not an engineer, that doesn't really understand the intricacies and of all of this different technology and renewables, they break it down in a very easy to understand way, and sort of makes a lot of the points that I tend to make on the streams about follow the money, right? Where is the subsidy? Where is the government going to pour tens of billions of dollars into? So if you Google, or if you just go to Barron's main page, take maybe 20-30 minutes out of your weekend and read that cover story, because you're going to get one of two things. You're going to get a lot of value out of reading it. Number one, you're really going to understand the tax ramifications of the brand new Inflation Reduction Bill, where those tax dollars are going to go, and it outlines line item by line item the different tax credits, the different subsidy programs that are going to be going into not only hydrogen fuel cell production, but wind, solar, and the like. So definitely check that out. Amazing article in Barron's. But check this out, everybody. We are on the corner of West 25th Street. And it is absolutely rocking tonight. It seems like people are all dining inside and outside. It seems like consumer spending is strong, all but here in Manhattan. Let's just do a quick survey of the restaurant. It doesn't seem like there's one empty seat in the place, which is good. 12D says walk through a sketchy part of New York next time. No thanks. Sinjib says, hey Tom, how are you? Good to see you, Sinjib. Always a pleasure. Hopefully you're having a good weekend so far. You know, this is that gelato place that's always packed. Now, one of the things I really liked what New York City has done is they've closed down Broadway, I believe starting at 28th Street. And it almost gives a European vibe, like a European impression. Everybody's outside, everybody's enjoying a coffee. It's really nice. Hey, Penelope says, hey, Tom and everybody, you need to be more specific on Barron's. So, okay, so Barron's is a newspaper, right? And usually every week they have a major cover story. And this cover story, I believe the title is called The Future of Renewable Energy Has Just Arrived. The U.S. climate bill, along with a parallel initiative in Europe, could reshape global energy within this decade. Here's how to play it. By Avi Salzman. So definitely check that out. I'm going to be reading some of the excerpts from the article, and I think that's going to help not only me, but all the viewers sort of understand and maybe how to formulate an interesting investing thesis on how to capitalize on this bill. Hey, Lena Sandoval is here. Happy Saturday. Sunshine after rain is here. Good to see you. Me says, hello, Tom from Australia. Good to see all of our viewers from the land down under. Trust you're having a good weekend. Ren1018 says, New York hit a home run when it comes to shutting streets down. They are always popular with people. Yeah, so Ren10, I kind of want to piggyback off of that statement. So I had a viewer of the live stream send me a CBS 2 News video that came out that proposes a new tax on drivers in New York City. Now, obviously, because I'm forgetful, I forget what it was called, but apparently anywhere below 59th Street in Manhattan, they are going to install, or they're proposing to install, like toll roads to tax people driving cars in the city. Now, I think this is a really, really horrible idea, and I think Democrats are shooting themselves in the foot if they implement this type of thing, because taxes are already the highest in the entire nation in New York City. Not only do we have to pay New York State income tax, but we have to pay New York City tax, which is a couple points. And now, what they want to do to reduce the amount of cars or the amount of vehicles on the road is they want to charge a toll anywhere from $9 to $22 for driving in Midtown Manhattan. I think that just does nothing to help the situation, and they are going to use some of those proceeds to fund the MTA because obviously they run at deficits every year and they're highly subsidized. I think that is a crazy idea. But what do you guys think? What do you guys think about the idea, right? Because I'm open to any type of conversation. What do you guys think about the idea of implementing a toll system and charging drivers anywhere from $9 to $22 just to drive around Midtown Manhattan? Would you agree with something like that? Would you disagree with something like that? And what would your proposed solution be to that issue? Hey, Liz is here. Says, hello, happy Saturday. What's up, Liz? We are standing outside of the Smith restaurant. There's another restaurant called the Smith that is actually right outside of the Lincoln Center, which we were streaming from earlier. Yeah, okay, so Jonathan France is horrible. The congestion pricing, yeah, I think you're right. It is called congestion tax or congestion pricing. Disney Matt says they want people to ride the subway, which they say the money will be used to fund the MTA. Yeah, so Disney Matt is correct. That is what their proposition is. But here's my take. And again, I am totally willing to hear opposing sides of the argument, but I'm just going to give you my take really quick. If you want people to feel comfortable to go on the subways, to ride the Long Island Railroad and the like, you need to make it safe. Okay, now I know this problem isn't mutually exclusive to New York, but there's a lot of people out there that are not comfortable riding the subways right now. And if you want people to be enticed to ride the subway, I believe the way to do it is to not beat them over the head with an additional tax. It's to make the subways a little bit safer. Now, the question is, how do we do that, right? The question is, how do we do that? And being a solutions-oriented person, you could probably say, increase police presence. You could probably say, get rid of the egregious bail reform policies that we have here in New York. And I think you could pretty much list a litany of different solutions, but I think the last thing that we should probably do is tax the average New Yorker when many New Yorkers are already at the brink. So, Soho says, Tom, subways should be turned into underground parks. Connor says, yes, cities are made for walking, not driving. America needs to stop being so car dependent and needs to start encouraging the use of public transit, says Connor. Okay. CT says taxing the vehicle traffic will. Christian says you need a vigilante superhero in New York. It's that simple. Yeah, we need Spider-Man or something like that. Disney Matt says yes, nobody feels safe on the train, so now they use Uber and Lyft as well. Yeah, and those prices, to Disney Matt's point, have really gone up too. quite substantially. Check out this place. This is a really, really unique restaurant here. Looks beautiful on the inside. Shadow ships is walks to Wall Street. I do agree with you. The other problem is that masks are being optional in the city, but people who choose to wear masks and they aren't wearing them correctly, says Shadow Ship. I'm not sure I see the relationship between the mask wearing and the people not taking public transit, but I respect that viewpoint. I may not agree with it, but I definitely will hear it out and respect it. CT says taxing vehicle traffic will put more stress on public transportation. More subway congestion going to hurt small businesses who need to make deliveries, says CT. So that's a good point as well. The problem that I have and where I see things being an issue is that I think many people across the United States have a false perception that all New Yorkers are, making $250,000 a year, knocking it out of the park, and are all wealthy, when that's actually really not the case. And there's actually been studies done, and I remember taking an economics class back in college when we were talking about some of these sorts of things, and essentially they just start to turn into a poverty tax, unfortunately, where the average everyday New Yorker that's trying to make ends meet, that tries to go to work, they just get taxed into oblivion, and thus this creates the creation of a two-tier society where you have an even exacerbated wealth divide. So people who can't afford the city, that are in the middle class, who can't afford to pay that $20 tax to drive in, unfortunately what happens is they're pushed out of the city. So what I don't want to happen is the creation of a poverty tax, essentially, in my view, and again, this is just my opinion, I want to make sure that I'm very clear when I say opinionated, I think things like the congestion taxes turn into a poverty tax which discriminates people that are poor, or discriminates against people that are poor. And that I don't think is very characteristic of the New York that I was born in. Anyway, check this out, everybody. So we are on Broadway. This is a brand new restaurant. So here's something that's very optimistic. We're on West 28th Street in Broadway. Pretty much every single storefront on Broadway after the pandemic used to be totally blown out. It was vacant, and now we're actually seeing the introduction of some restaurants and new shops, so which is really good news. And again, this is a little bit of anecdotal data. There's only one empty chair in this restaurant. So everything is really packed and it seems to be booming. Gennaro says, Tom, I'm finding the city very clean. Gregory says, nice, good to see you, Gregory. Welcome. Della says, the next tax proposal will be a breathing tax. I know. Hey, Jerry is here, says, if New York was truly progressive, Subway would be transformed to psychedelic mushroom grow stations. Oh, God. Dan Zhang says, that is a nice restaurant. The price is outrageous. Oh, is it really? I didn't know that. I didn't have any idea. Speaking of something outrageous in a good way, check out this view of the Empire State Building here between 29th Street and 28th Street. Beautiful. Oh, it's not outrageous. Sorry, Dan. Dan Zing says, is not that outrageous. Copy that. Austin City Limits has lots of good restaurants. Agreed. So getting back onto our conversation of renewables, and here's been one of my main criticisms of the renewable energy transformation. So I guess I'd like to say that I am a huge supporter of clean energy, going green. I'm a massive supporter of that. What I am not in support of, and I think that this is a major problem, is doing things potentially a little bit prematurely. So what do I mean by that? Well, I think we have to look back throughout history and study previous energy transitions. Okay, and I think the Barron's article has done a really, really good job of that. So, as a rule, energy transitions don't happen quickly. And I'm reading from the Barron's article here, and it's so coincidental that they're talking about the same things I always talk about on the stream. They said it took some 200 years for coal to supplant wood as the world's leading energy source. The rise of oil wasn't that much faster. After the first oil rush in Pennsylvania in 1859, more than a century passed before crude topped coal. The age of renewable energy, by comparison, is coming on with lightning speed. Sources of energy like solar panels that seemed like tree hugger technology less than a decade ago have become key parts of baseload electricity generation. Wind turbines now produce more power in the United States than the entire country used in 1950 alone. Electric vehicles accounting for 5% of new car sales, a tipping point that in other countries had led to 25% adoption within 4 years. Renewables are now the largest source of power generation in Europe, and they expanded their share of global power generation to 29% in 2020 from 20% in 2010. So to sort of unpack what I just read, it takes a while for transitions to go smoothly. And one of the things that I'm seeing is that's very, very concerning to me is we're trying to do this transition a little bit prematurely before we have the appropriate infrastructure in place. Now, where I'm seeing a big, big mistake that politicians are making is they're doing something that is probably one of the most rookie moves when it comes to sales and negotiation. And I think it's very telling that a lot of our politicians have, or seldom have, experience working in the private sector, getting deals done, having negotiation skills and the like. What I see them doing is they are negotiating from extremes of the spectrum. Now, this is like the biggest rookie mistake that you could do, right? And when you negotiate from an extreme of a spectrum, what you do is you end up polarizing the other side and you never get anything done. And I think this is exactly what we're seeing right now when it relates to the transition of clean energy. Because in general, what the people on the left are doing is they're saying you got to shut down all of the nuclear power plants, you got to turn off all the coal generation power plants, and you got to go 100% clean overnight. Well, that's a problem for two reasons. Number one, you're going to have a huge displacement of jobs. So the jobs that you're displacing, they're never going to come on your side of the cause, because why would they vote for something and why would they be on board for something that is going to eradicate their jobs? Okay, that's number one. Number two, you need to be realistic with the audience and set expectations that, look, we need to invest in building the infrastructure to support 100% renewables, and that's not going to happen overnight. That's probably going to happen over a period of 30 to 50 years, and from that point, we could slowly transition so we don't have rolling blackouts, so we don't have energy prices spiking on the average American people, and that's not what we're seeing, right? I think we're trying to do this in haste. I think everybody could agree on both the Republican and the Democrat side that we need to start to think about this. We need to start investing in renewable energies. But if I was a politician, which I will never be, and I was trying to get buy-in from both sides, that's how I would pitch it, right? I'd say we need to come to terms with the fact that we need to transition. The transition is going to take a while. We can't just flip on the light, shut down all coal. What we should be doing is retraining and retooling our society for a rational transition to all renewables. So let's say if you work in a coal mine, let's say if you work in a coal plant or something like that, as you continue to work, the government should be investing in your education to maybe get you up to speed so you can work somewhere else when the time comes that we turn down those plants, right? But in my view, I think that makes too much sense, so that will probably never happen. JM says you were describing the fourth industrial revolution. Good to see you, JM. Brian XTC says, but it's been decades in the making. You have so many strawman arguments. The majority of the left is not AOC. Most Democrats are very pro-business. Yeah, so, and Brian, I think you're right. I think you make a good point. So the point I'm trying to make, I'm not really trying to make this a political argument. What I'm saying is yes, make the investment into the infrastructure, but have the infrastructure in place before we turn the lights off, so to speak, all but figuratively. But yeah, I agree with you. Alex L says solar energy, hydrogen, and micronuclear seem to be the future. Yeah, I think you're right. You know, it's interesting. What we were talking about at the beginning of the stream, hold on, let me show you guys a really nice view of the Empire State Building. So there's something interesting that we were talking about at the beginning of the stream. And I was sort of saying, I'm not an engineer, I'm not that smart to know if hydrogen fuel cell technology is going to be the future or traditional EV batteries are going to be the future. But from an investment standpoint, I always like to follow the thesis of follow the money. Where is the subsidy going? And with the passage of this bill, the Inflation Reduction Act, a lot of the subsidy, a lot of the money is going towards all renewables, not just wind, not just solar, not just hydrogen, right? So I think there's going to be ways for us to capitalize as investors where we don't have to have that argument of which one is going to win. We could place our bets in multiple different sectors of the renewable economy, and I think we're going to come out quite well. So all good points there. Hey, Carson is here. Says, hey Tom, how are you? What's up, Carson? Welcome. We are now on West 32nd Street and Broadway. Wow, check out all this garbage that's piling up here. Let's see. Hey, Young SC is loving. Says, I'm curious to know if I should buy property in Manhattan as my vacation spot for whenever I come to New York. I am a Canadian. Yeah, well, I think it just depends on sort of what your budget is, right? I believe, what is the correct terminology for that? I think it's called the pied-à-terre. So if you're just using it as a vacation spot, I think you could probably maybe buy like a studio and use it as like a pied-à-terre. But look, I love the city. I know the city has its challenges, but I love it here. I think I'll always live here. Brian XTC says, how long are you going to be in the city? So I was here for about 2 weeks, but I am going to be in Miami, Florida starting Tuesday. So we will have no live stream Tuesday or Wednesday. I have a big golf outing in Fort Lauderdale with a client. So there's a big pharmaceutical conference down in Miami, and then we are going to have like sort of like a golf tournament like for charity. That'll be on Wednesday. So unfortunately, there will be no stream Tuesday or Wednesday, but we will be back live Thursday. Hey, George, this is hydroelectric cold turbines with motion of hydronics. All right. Hey, Out and About is here. What's up? Out and About is our pal from Toronto, Canada. Good to see all of our Canadians here. Carson, have you been practicing your golf skills? Dude, no, man. I'm so horrible. It's embarrassing, but I think, so let me put it this way. This is how I like to explain it to my friends. I think for a person who's never golfed before, I think I'm better than the average person who's never golfed before. Does that make sense? Am I explaining that right? But to a person that like golfs, you know, maybe once every couple months, I'm not good at all. But I tend to pick up on skills a little bit better than the average person. But still definitely really, really embarrassing skills, to be quite honest. What about you? Any golfers in the chat by chance? Out of curiosity, any big golfers? I know we have Golf Endeavor that is a huge golfer, but Brian XTC. Wow, check this one out, guys. This is beautiful. Hey, the LT Prod's the same as you. Hey, DeLargos says, I play golf. Dude, we'll have to play if you're in New York or in Miami. Lahel says, hey Tom, when I was in New York in 2015, I've seen only 2 rats. Oh my God, really? One on the subway tracks and one on the stairs going down to the station. Yeah, there's a ton of rats here, man. Jonathan Francis, it's a love-hate game. Yeah, that's true. Steph writes, so if I'm exploring New York City alone, is it advisable to get a taxi or walk? I walk everywhere. I mean, walking is fantastic. I mean, isn't it funny that we're on the topic of renewables and reducing our carbon footprint? I think I would go out on a limb to say I have a pretty low carbon footprint. I pretty much walk everywhere. And one of the good things about walking in New York is you get to see and pass so many different people, so many interesting sights. So, I don't know, I like walking. Andy S says, I've never played Austin City Limits is Tom Palmer, yeah. Tucson says golf is a good walk sport. That's true. I do kind of like driving around in those golf carts there, to be honest. Hey, Natalie is here. Says, hello, Tom. What's up? Brian says, walking in New York City is great. Love that. Agreed. Michelle says, I hate the game. I hate this game. Nice shot. I love this game. All right. Judy says, hey, Tom, I live 8 miles from the Augusta National Golf Tournament. Wow. Very nice. So if anybody's a big golfer, I'll give you a little bit of a heads up here. If you're ever in Miami, there's a place that actually is one of my favorite places on the planet Earth, and it is called Normandy Isles or Normandy Shores. So Normandy Shores, I believe, is the south section of Normandy Isles. So what you want to do is you want to go to the northernmost section, the one where you have to go through all like the security stuff. That is the most beautiful place I have ever been to, a hidden gem. And I'll tell you guys a story that was probably one of the worst, I don't want to say one of the worst things, but it was a big missed opportunity for me. But then again, way back in 2015 and 2016, I wasn't as well capitalized as I am now. You know, then I was in my early 20s. So long story short, I won't bore you guys, but I was about to buy a place on Normandy Isles or Normandy Shores. Back then, the homes were going for around maybe 450, maybe 500. If you guys go on Zillow and look at a duplex or a single family home on Normandy Isles, you can't find one for under $1.2, $1.3 million. And I remember the first time I went there, I was on business, I was looking around, I'm like, oh my gosh, how could these houses possibly only be $500,000? I'm like, these homes are all worth $1 million. Fast forward 5 years, all the homes are $1 million. I would have made probably like $700,000. But I didn't have the money at the time. Anyway, not to bore you guys with that, but yeah, if you guys are big golfers, check out Normandy Isles, Normandy Shores. Really great course, really good time if you're looking to bring clients anywhere. That's a really, really good time down there. Yeah, Brian XTC says prices are crazy. Dude, it's nuts, man. It's really, really nuts. But here we are, Herald Square at 34th Street. We are standing right outside of the Macy's, which is the largest store in the world. Teresa Diaz says, Tom, California governor is listening to you. AP News writes, California governor proposes expanding nuclear power plants. Hey, I can give Gavin Newsom credit for that. I can give him credit for that. And I think you guys know, I try to be as fair as possible. I understand that I have cognitive biases like everybody else, but look, if a politician does something that's good, doesn't matter if they're on the right or the left, I think we can give him credit. So definitely Gavin Newsom gets 2 thumbs up for me on that one. You know, I think that's the biggest disservice that the government has done to Americans is talk so poorly about nuclear power. You know, 3rd generation nuclear power is some of the safest and cleanest technology in the world. We could literally solve climate change with that alone. And countries like China and India are actually building net new nuclear projects, and we're actually turning them down, which is really, really unfortunate. Guys, check this out. If you look all the way down 6th Avenue, you can see the beautiful One World Trade Center right here. Absolutely fantastic. Hey, the Mighty Bull is here. Says watching, listening, and learning. Good to see you, Mighty Bull. Christian Wilson says, yeah, nuclear power has gotten a bad rap. So I'll tell you guys a quick story. So I posted on my Twitter account. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you could follow @WalksWallStreet. I think I may have told you this, or I may not have. I forget, but I guess I'll tell you again. Oh, check these girls out. So I go to pay my water bill, and I log into my account, even though I have it on auto pay. And I'm like, okay, I'll pay. I'm like, the bill's only $160,000. And then I do a double take. I'm like, wait, what? My water bill is 160 grand? I'm like, why is that? So long story short, I was freaking out. I had the bill on auto pay, and it turns out there was a massive system-wide glitch, and about 10,000 people in Miami got crazy water bills for over $100,000. So I was freaking out. So the joke on Twitter was that I was running a nuclear reactor in my backyard. Thankfully, we got that figured out. Yeah, Steph Wright is like, my water bill's approximately $35. So is mine, but that definitely gave me a heart attack. Let's just say that, especially because my bill was on auto pay. Natalie says, you told us the story already. Yeah, I forget. But yeah, they fixed it, so that's good. Mike C says they just drilled it into people's heads that nuclear power is bad. It's really hard to undo that after so much negativity. I agree. You know, in the bill, there's also some different subsidies to actually keep existing nuclear power plants open, so that is definitely a good thing for the bill. Yeah, Yogi's like, imagine auto paying 160 grand. So I obviously knew it was the wrong amount, right? Like, obviously I knew it was the wrong amount. But then, you know me, I go through the rabbit holes of Reddit, and there actually has been instances of people that got bills in the mail from their local municipality for, 6 figures, and they said, oh, it's due to a leak. Oh, it's due to miscalculation. And you actually have to fight with the local municipality for 2 or 3 years and then finally settle. So I thought that's what it was, and I was like, oh my God, I don't have time to fight with Miami for 2 or 3 years. So thankfully it was just a mishap. So, but yeah, really crazy. So I'm definitely going to save that bill forever. I have the physical copy of the bill in my house. Yeah, Bagels and Walks is like that. That's one hell of an overdraft fee, I know. Oh man, that's hilarious. Autumn says, hey Tom, good evening. You pay water bills in Miami? I was told residents don't pay water. No, I absolutely pay. Yep, I absolutely pay. Yeah, Harry is like, no auto pay, there's way too many bad programmers. Well, let's just say that I definitely did take it off auto pay. D Woods says, did you get compensated for the worry? I did not. I did not. It actually made the news. So if you guys just search it up, they did a whole news segment on it. It was on TV. Out and About says, hey Tom, are you walking towards Lexington Avenue? Yeah, so we are walking down 34th Street tonight. We're about to hit into 5th Avenue. I want to cross the street so I could show you guys the view of the Empire from across the street. Gary says, I saw a phone bill that was $3,000. You know, that actually happens more times than not, because, and especially it happens to a lot of companies at the enterprise level, especially when they have executives traveling abroad. I've had friends who've worked in the telecommunications industry and enterprise sales telling me crazy stories about, 6-figure phone bills for international charges and things like that. But if you look straight ahead, everybody, this is the beautiful One Vanderbilt building, and you could see the top standing directly on the corner of 34th Street and 5th Avenue. Yeah, don't kill carrots. It's like they probably had Verizon, potentially. I think obviously everybody knows about the M&A activity that happened in the telecommunication space when it relates to Sprint merging with T-Mobile. Now, if you really look at the deal, it really wasn't a merger in my view. Pretty much T-Mobile acquired Sprint. And one of the really good things about that is, surprisingly, even though Sprint was a very, very unprofitable business and an unprofitable company, it just so happened that they have the most desirable spectrum to run and operate a 5G network. So it was a really good acquisition. I know you call it a merger, but T-Mobile definitely won out on that one. And I think if I had to be bullish on one of the major providers, it would definitely be T-Mobile, because they have the lion's share of that mid-band spectrum that we deploy 5G networks on. So I think if somebody had to say over the next 5 to 10 years, if I had to buy one telecom stock, now again, this is just me talking on the stream. I'm not saying go buy it, but we're just talking about overdraft fees here. So I wanted to tell you this story. I would definitely put my money on T-Mobile. So check this out, everybody. Beautiful view from the Empire, standing on the corner of 5th Avenue and 34th Street. Hey, Denise is here, says, hey Tom, welcome. Two Wheel Freedom says, was not Sprint also Nextel back in the day? Yeah, so Sprint, it was after the merger. So Nextel used to be those like direct connects. Does anybody remember those direct connects, like little chirp devices? So Nextel was actually really, really big in the construction business. They had a really big lion's share hold on the total addressable market of the construction industry. So Nextel was really good for those like direct connect two-way chirp phones, like you press the little button on the side. Hey, Carrot says, I've had T-Mobile since I was 12. I definitely agree. Ooh, Brian's like, have you been to the Edge yet? I have not been to the Edge. Definitely not. Yeah, Two Wheel Freedom's like chirp chirp, where you at? Martin says, we used to have them at my job, the Nextel, like the little two ways. Hey, Yellis here says, hey Tom, can robo-advisors ever beat the market, or is it a meme for lazy people? Also great view. I'm not sure if it's a meme, but I think as finance in general moves towards more automation, you're going to see more robo-advisors. And I think right now robo-advisors are very, very basic. It's sort of like your input is the output. I don't know, I don't utilize robo-advisors, but at the end of the day, I would say finance is probably going to become more automated than not. I mean, that's been the trend, so. Hey, Donna L, what's up? Says Ken, says New York can build all the super towers they want. The Empire State Building still has more character than all of them. Donna L, I think you put that, you worded that so perfectly that, yeah, I don't know what to say. You worded that so perfectly. The Empire State Building, to me, why I'm so obsessed with it, I think you guys could tell from the streams, is it really, to me, it represents the overcoming of adversities, right? That anything is possible. I mean, think about the story of how the Empire State Building was built. We built that thing in record time during the Great Depression with just random workers busting their tail every day. The safety conditions were horrible. Look at some of those photographs of the iron workers building the Empire State Building. There's no harnesses, there's no hard hats. These guys went up there and built that building during the Great Depression, did it in record time. It's a really, really inspiring story, so I agree. Hey, Gary says, I'm doing fine, how are you? Good to see you. So we'll take one lap through Koreatown and then we'll head uptown. Yeah, Carson is like, some of those pictures are insane. They are insane. Hey, Liz says, is that the building with the men standing on the beam? Yeah, that's exactly it. Yep. That's exactly it. So now we are walking down Fifth Avenue towards Koreatown. So I want to read you guys a statistic that came right out of the Barron's article as it relates to wind and solar energy. Now, I know we spent the first, let's say, 20 minutes talking about oh, hold on, let me just move along here. You guys are going to see an even better view of the Empire from here. Hold on. So check this out, everyone. That's a very iconic shot. So it says, wind turbines now produce more power in the United States than the entire country used in 1950. Electric vehicles accounted for 5% of new car sales, a tipping point that in other countries has led to 25% adoption within 4 years. Renewables are now the largest source of power generation in Europe, and they expanded their share of global power generation to 29% in 2020 from 20% in 2010. So as we sort of expand upon my thesis of follow the money, we may not agree and say that, you know, solar is not efficient source of power generation. Wind is not an efficient source of power generation. I don't think that that's the point. The point is the government is going to throw so much tax incentive and so much subsidy at this that there's going to be so much investment in these sectors of the economy that there's going to be massive, massive growth and a stock appreciation or price appreciation in a lot of the stocks of some of these companies. So for example, as the market has been following through here and actually bottoming, one of the things that we've been seeing specific to solar is like Enphase Energy trading at all-time record highs. These are the first type of companies that are breaking out of their respective bases. So usually if you want to find a true market leader or a new TML that are going to go on to run 300 to 400% during the next bull market, they tend to be the companies that start to break out first. And it's such a coincidence that the companies or the industry sectors that are breaking out right now are solar, renewables, and it just so happened that we passed this monstrous bill to provide so much stimulus and subsidy to this sector. So something to think about. In other news, this is the Baekjung, which is my favorite Korean restaurant in New York City. Highly, highly recommend it. My personal favorite. It is expensive, but I think it's worth it. Hey, Estelle is here. Good to see you, Estelle. Estelle is joining us from the one and only Australia. Good to see you. Okay, I think the Empire State Building's probably 9-7 out of 10. Hey, Oreo Speedwagons is so cool. I love this channel. Thank you so much for being here. YouTubers is another to think about. It's a tax and spending bill, more spending money we don't have. Yeah, so I totally agree with your perceptive on that and opinion. My point is the bill's passed anyway, so there's no use in me complaining about it anymore. Now all of my focus is how can I capitalize on this to make some money off of it, right? And the government historically has given incentives to entrepreneurs to build products and services in specific segments of the economy. So wherever the incentivization is, that's where my investment dollars are going to be generally. right? Now, I'm not going to say I'm going to buy every solar stock. I'm not going to buy every hydrogen stock or new battery cell technology stock. But it's important to watch the relative strength of these particular companies. And if a company is profitable, right? So very seldom are solar stocks, especially the ones that manufacture and install solar panels, very seldom are they actually profitable, right? Because the margins are so thin. But perhaps with a lot of these subsidies, increased incentives for consumers to install solar panels on their residence, potentially profitability will increase. So should earnings grow and should revenue grow at some of these companies, I'll definitely be buying them. Yeah, Brian says like the internet. Hey, Marx is great for renewable energy. Am I the one whom is tired of Dubai and Saudi Arabia flouting our own money in our faces with these shows, etc.? This is Mark. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be tons of investment going into that type of technology. So the name of the bill is called the Inflation Reduction Act, but the point is the bill, a lot of that tax revenue that's going to come in, and we talked about this week on the stream, right? So the number one way, well, I'm going to say one of the ways that they're going to raise taxes is to tax share buybacks or share repurchase programs. So a lot of companies out there, I think the top 5 companies that repurchase the most stock is number 1, Apple, number 2 is Alphabet, number 3, I think Bank of America, and then Microsoft. They may be in a little bit mixed-matched order, but essentially what they want to do is implement a 1% excise tax on all the net shares they buy back. So not including the shares that are bought for employee stock purchase programs and things like that. Supposedly, and we are now standing outside of one of my favorite restaurants in New York, which is Take 31. Supposedly, over the next 10 years, that should raise about $70 billion in tax revenue. But the point is, they are going to use that revenue to invest in clean energy and healthcare. So her name is Han, is right next to Take 31. They are both owned by the same owner, and they are fantastic. Hey, Eric is here, says, hey Tom, how are you? I'm doing good. How are you, Eric? Brian says, what is the name of the Korean restaurant? So this one is Take 31, very, very popular. But right next door is Her Name is Han, and they are both owned by the same owner. And these are probably my two personal favorite Korean restaurants in the city, right on 31st Street. Simone, New York says, do you know anybody through whom I can rent an apartment on a monthly basis? I do not, unfortunately. Somebody says, which restaurant haven't you been to? Yeah, that's true. I wonder how long it would take for a person to go to every single restaurant in New York City. Maybe take a couple of years. Probably take a couple of years. YouTuber says we need less government, not more. Government has gone too far. Taxes are too high. Our freedom is too limited. We have to stop tolerating government's overreach. I think you said that very well said. I think that's very well said. YouTuber, I agree with you, and I think you're making some fantastic points. But the point I'm trying to make tonight on the stream is that the bill's already passed. They're already going to spend the money. So as investors, right, as an investor, let's figure out a way how we could exploit this, make money through a system that I like to call follow the money, right? So if the government is going to provide so much subsidy to all of these different renewable energy companies, well, assuming that these companies are profitable and they're growing their revenues, they're growing their EPS, that's potentially a good place you want to put your money. Brian says, I think there's over 10,000 restaurants in New York City. Yeah, maybe including the 5 boroughs. I think you may be right. Could anybody Google that? Maybe that'd be a fun thing to Google. You know, how many actual restaurants are there in New York City? Tess Stickles says, we need freedom, more freedom than the hippies pretend to have. Freedom. Nice. Yeah, I agree. Whoa, Mike 34 says, Tom, there's over 22 restaurants in New York City. That would take a while. Yeah, that would probably take multiple years. So check this out, everybody. I'm going to read another excerpt that I think you guys are going to find really enlightening here. It says, by 2030, renewables could account for 60% of power generation in Western Europe, up from 35% today, and 38% in the United States and China, up from about 23% and 30% respectively, according to S&P Global. From there, investments should ramp up even more. Annual clean energy investment worldwide will need to hit $4 trillion by 2030 to meet the widely held commitment of net zero carbon emissions by 2050. So think about that. There's going to need to be $4 trillion in worldwide investment in order to hit the government's goals of net zero carbon emissions. So think about that. Again, follow the money. There's definitely, with certainty, I could almost guarantee you that there are going to be 5 to 10 baggers in the renewable energy space. Our job is to identify them, understand which companies are compounding out their earnings, growing their revenues, and are running profitable businesses. If they're going to have that much subsidy and investment over that period of time, yeah, you can definitely bet that there's going to be true market leaders in those scenarios. So, I think she may need help. No, she's good. Rudolph says that money is wasted. Yeah, so the point I'm trying to make, is that the money's already spent, right? So there's really no more use in arguing about it, whether if it's a good idea to spend it, because it's going to be spent. So from an investor's standpoint, so on Walks on Wall Street, what I try to do is find opportunities in the marketplace where we could generate alpha in our portfolios. And as of right now, as this market is emerging from that correction we've had, the interesting thing is if we look at the relative strength of the stocks that are breaking out, if you sort by industry group, renewables and solar is actually holding up quite well. I think Enphase is trading near all-time highs with a 99 relative strength. But if you guys are enjoying tonight's stream so far, please hit the like button and tap the subscribe button if you are new. We do these live streams about 5 days per week between New York City and Miami, and we'd love to have you to come along for the ride. Mike Cease's Devil's Advocate says, doesn't the average New Yorker not own a car? So I think most people in the city of New York may not own a car, but New York State is a huge state. New York State is comprised of upstate New York, western New York, central New York. So there's definitely a ton of rural areas where people drive cars in New York. Carrot says, who do you think will be the leaders in the industry? I sold Lucid. Yeah, so I think that it all comes down to earnings and profitability. At the end of the day, and I try to drive this point home, at the end of the day, the thing that makes a stock price go up is the earnings. Earnings matter because in the general sense, large institutional investors, or as they like to be called, the composite operators, if you are sort of subscribed to the belief of Richard Wyckoff, the composite operators are the big hedge funds, the pension funds, the sovereign wealth funds that drive much of the volume in the market. And they're only going to buy companies of top quality and top class. So if a company is not compounding out their earnings at an annual growth rate of 25% plus, if they don't have good return on equity, and if they're not profitable, then capital allocators are not going to allocate money to those investments, right? Think over the past decade, what have been the best investments? Things like Microsoft, things like Apple, Alphabet. These companies generate a ridiculous amount of free cash. Their profitability is insane, and that's why their stock price follows. So I think the overarching theme of this bill is if all of these renewable energy companies are going to get so much subsidy. Our job is to be financial investigators and figure out which particular companies are profitable. And I believe those ones that either have the fastest path to profitability or that have profits right now are going to be the winners. Some of which I'll outline in the Behind the Street newsletter, which will be out probably on Tuesday, so which is a free investing newsletter which I write for the group usually every other week. So I'm going to try to look for the most profitable companies within the renewable space, and those are probably going to be the ones that over the next 10 years could go up 5x, 10x, things like that. Hey, Sunshine After Rain is here. Good to see you, Sunshine. Hey, Queen of Swords says hello, Tom. Hey, Queen of Swords. So now we are walking through the one and only Koreatown here. This is one of my favorite spots in the city. You know, something that's really a big bummer is there was a really nice, sort of like a Korean bakery. I think it was called Grace Street. No, Cafe Bene it was called, Cafe Bene. And unfortunately it closed down, but that was one of my favorite spots here in Koreatown. Ocean Wave, hey Ocean Wave, good to see you. Bottomless Coffee says Grace Street Bakery, always been a line. Oh yeah. You know, there's been another bakery, again, unfortunately it closed down. Cafe Bene. Cafe Bene was the name, but unfortunately that is closed. Right in here, which is called Food Gallery 32, is home to one of my favorite Korean chicken places called Telecom Chicken. Very, very good. This is one of my favorite places here. So any New Yorkers in the chat, have you noticed the uptick in people openly selling like pre-rolls on the street? I think that's so interesting to think about that. Just a couple of years ago, you would never see anything like this, like people openly selling weed on the street. But now we see a lot of it. We see a lot of it. A lot has changed. I think it's just one step closer to full legalization on the federal level. So, you know, if H Mart is open, everybody, I may have to stop in the H Mart for like a second. Hopefully you guys don't mind. Brand says I'd be puffing away. Wow, look, somebody says the pre-rolls aren't half bad. I don't smoke weed, but I don't have anything against people who do. So here we have H Mart right here on 32nd Street, or called Korea Way. Yeah, Brian's like, people have been selling weed. I think they've been selling worse things in Washington Square Park. Wow, Koreatown is absolutely packed today. Hey, Rafael, this is excellent from Argentina. Hello to all of our Argentinian viewers. Sean is here, says hello from Arizona. Welcome, Sean. Martin says, that's good, Tom. I smoke weed. Nice. Yeah, I think that, not to get, so we'll get off topic. It's a Saturday. We can get off topic a little bit. Obviously, everybody is up in arms about the female basketball player that is facing about 9 years in jail for, I haven't really been following it, but I think she brought some weed capsules or something into Russia. And the United States government is all upset about it. I think they should be equally upset about all the people we incarcerated for weed right here in our own country over the past 20 years. I don't know. I think that people should not be, generally, I don't think people should be in prison for non-violent things, like smoking weed. I think that's really, really counterproductive and a huge waste of our resources, and quite frankly, it destroys people's lives. But I know there's a lot of debate on that, but that's just my take. Oh, Martin, was it vape oil? Okay. Yeah, Autumn Beauty says you're right. They need to reverse the convictions. I'm all for that. I'm all for that. Hey, Tish TV says hello everybody. What's up, Tish TV? Welcome. I think one of the other things that we could do that would really, really improve our country is to legalize on the federal level. And this will essentially, hold on, let me cross here. Usually these bikes, they come ripping around this corner at like 90,000 miles an hour. But I think if we legalize it on the federal level and you could have people purchasing weed like in the pharmacies, think about what a massive hit that's going to take to all these scumbag cartels. So instead of having the cartels make billions of dollars and fund their sex trafficking and underage trafficking of girls all over the world, we could totally take those guys out and cripple them if the United States says, yeah, you know what, we're going to legalize it on the federal level, and if you want to buy it in a safe way, you can go into a pharmacy, you could buy it, and you know that it's not going to be laced with anything, you know it's going to live up to the FDA, and I think that would literally put a massive, massive dent into the revenue streams of the cartels. I mean, this war on drugs has been going on for way too long. But again, that's just my opinion. Who knows? Yeah, Martin says, I don't think that'll ever happen. We need to come up with creative solutions in the United States to, impact the revenue of the cartels. The LT Prod says, I 100% agree. Because a lot of people don't understand, right? And you guys know, I tend to be a conservative. But what I think older conservatives don't understand is, they're like, yeah, weed is bad, it can be a gateway drug, this and that. But I'm like, you gotta look at the bigger picture. These cartels, it's not just they're making money on drugs. These people are terrorizing people in other countries. Okay, it's funding child trafficking, sex trafficking. It's a lot bigger than it's just weed is terrible, it makes people lazy. No, it's a bigger issue here. So, I don't know, not to get too political, but that's sort of where I stand. You guys ready for another beautiful view of the Empire? I think we are. Hey, Abstract Angel Artist says, hey Tom, nice night for a walk. Hey, you too, dude. Thank you so much for being here. I'm more conservative too, and the cartels, they're evil. I agree. I think everybody could agree on that. I just think that some of the older individuals in politics just need a new perspective, a fresh new perspective on things perhaps. All right, everybody. Since it's Saturday night, I'll let you guys choose. Should we walk up Broadway tonight? 6th Avenue or 5th Avenue? Look at all the birds. What do you guys want to do? We'll walk up 5th, 6th, or Broadway. I'll let you guys choose. Hey, Tish TV, what's up? Hey. Fifth Avenue. Whoa, everybody wants Fifth Avenue. All right, I saw like 1,000 fifths. Ooh, MN says you spoke about Little Island. We did speak about Little Island. But I was thinking about it. I may want to start off the stream tomorrow on Staten Island Ferry, and then from Staten Island Ferry walk all the way to Little Island and end. So Susan Van is here. Hey Susan, good to see you. Welcome. All right, I'm going to put you guys down for a minute. Hey, Paul Tricky's here. Good to see you, Paul. I'm doing good. Doing good, dude. How are you? All right, team, let us head out. This is the beautiful One Vanderbilt right here. Enrico is here, good to see you. Disney Matt says Broadway would be nice. I've been seeing a lot of Fifth. I don't know, let's see, we'll head over, we'll walk a little bit up 6th. All right, how about we'll do this? We'll walk 2 blocks up Broadway, 2 blocks up 6th, and 2 blocks up 5th. Autumn Beauty says, hey Tom, would you be upset if somebody was sitting on your car? I don't have a car, but I think maybe I'd be a little bit creeped out. I'd be like, why are you sitting on the car? I think maybe a little bit disrespectful for you to sit on someone's car, I'd say. Dr. Longus is good compromise. See, that was a never negotiate from the extremes of the spectrum. Jay, good to see you. Thank you so much. So I've been seeing a lot of those spotted lanternflies everywhere in the city. I've been doing my part with squashing as many as I can. I think Lee from the chat sent me a really good article or a write-up about the spotted lanternflies wreaking havoc on a lot of the agriculture on Long Island. So I'll ask the chat, has anybody else in the chat been seeing those spotted lanternflies anywhere across the United States? I know we have an audience that is made up of not only people in the United States, but all over the world. So have you guys been seeing those things? The Bringer says he's talking about the jungle bugs. No, I think they're called spotted lanternflies. Yeah, Brian's like, gotta squash them. Christina Wilson says not in Arizona, okay. None in Florida. Interesting, I'll be in Florida on Tuesday. Jace is very disappointed to sit on someone's automobile, or disrespectful, got it. Not in Colorado, all right. Little Banks says there's a lot of lanternflies in New Jersey.
You're cute, bro.
Paul Tricky says nope. Carrot says a spotted lanternfly landed on me earlier today by 15th Street and Union Square. Nice. Hey, Marty Lewis is here. Says I have seen some lanternflies on Broadway. I killed one. The next evening I saw a dead one in the pool deck. Wow. Yeah, well, supposedly they're really, really detrimental to like crops, agriculture, things like that. All right, so we're gonna walk up one more block and then we're gonna make a right. So before I forget everybody, if you type !1, so !1 in the chat, I programmed the Nightbot to drop a very, very insightful link about the topic of tonight's conversation to sort of give the pros and the cons of traditional EV production in the latter. So please check that out. I think CNBC did a really good job on that video. So once again, exclamation point 1. So here's a trivia question for tonight. It's Saturday, we could have a little bit of fun. It doesn't have to be boring and laborious. So why do you think I programmed the Nightbot as exclamation point 1 as we're for the title of the video? So if you guys open the title of the video, you see the video, why do you think I programmed the Nightbot as exclamation point 1? Does anybody have any ideas? Sabrina Fair, no? Good to see you. What do you guys think this water is? It's probably like sewage water from the garbage. Really nasty. No, it is the atomic number of hydrogen. Hey, War Walker's here. What's up, War Walker? Good to see you. War Walker is our friend from 305 Miami. All right, so we'll walk up 2 blocks, 6th Avenue, and then cross over again, and then walk up 5th. That actually may work out really well, because that'll bring us right to Radio City or Rockefeller Center. Jay says, Tom, ever have a flame steak? I don't think so. What is that? I'm not too sure. Hey, British Gray is here from Tampa, Florida. Welcome, British Gray. Good to see you. Oh, a flank steak? Yeah, I think so. Okay, we are about to pass the Bank of China. Destructionist says, Tom, have you been to Green Acre Park on 51st Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenue? I saw it on IG and it has a waterfall and it looks cool. I don't think I have. I'm trying to think. Let me think. Green Acre Park. You know, I don't think so. The closest place that I can think of what you're describing, is anybody familiar with Sutton Place? Is anybody familiar with Sutton Place on the Upper East Side? If you want to know a hidden gem in New York, so if you're visiting New York, maybe you're a New Yorker or whatnot, if you want to know one of my favorite hidden secrets of New York City, you gotta visit the Sutton Place Synagogue. So right outside of the Sutton Place Synagogue is this beautiful, beautiful waterfall. It's like an outdoor park. I think it's a public park. You know, maybe we'll have to actually go past there tonight and see it. I haven't been there in a while, but it is really nice. I'll just say that. So, a really beautiful Sutton Place Synagogue. I believe right to the left is a massive outdoor waterfall with seating. Really, really beautiful place. Hey, NMB045 says, happy Saturday night, Tom. What's up, NMB045? Good to see you. Bagels and Walks says it's a great place to sit and have lunch. Definitely agree. So NMB045, we were talking about the Inflation Reduction Act today, but we'll let the dirt bikers pass. So NMB 045, we were talking about the Inflation Reduction Act today, but from a standpoint of follow the money, okay? So a lot of the times on the streams, we'll talk about one of the best ways to formulate an investment thesis, and one of those ways is to follow where the government is going to give a lot of subsidy, a lot of tax incentives, a lot of credits, things like that. So if we think about it and we do a deep dive into the Inflation Reduction Act, a lot of the taxation, of the new taxation, is going to be invested into renewable energies, not exclusive to wind, solar, and hydrogen. So we were coming up with some ideas. So one of the things that I'm seeing as the market is starting to rebound here, historically, if you look back throughout history of market bottoms, the new true market leaders that tend to lead the market tend to be the stocks that are showing extreme relative strength when the market turns up. So for example, if you look at the industry sector of renewables and solar, you'll see a lot of stocks that are trading near their 52-week highs, as opposed to the vast majority of stocks out there in other industry segments that are trading at 52-week lows. For example, Enphase Energy. Hold on one second. I think he may be closing this, but I kind of want to go into Bryant Park. If he tells us to get out, we'll get out. But I want to show you guys Bryant Park. So we were talking about all of the different subsidies that the government is going to put into renewables. And we were going over some interesting statistics as we're overlooking the beautiful One Vanderbilt building here. Hold on, let me make sure my camera's in focus. Hold on one second. Somebody says, I believe Sutton Place is near Sloan Kettering. I'm not sure actually. But check this out, everybody. The Inflation Reduction Act, as the U.S. climate bill is called, extends and boosts lucrative tax credits for wind and solar, allowing homeowners and project developers to claim up to 30% of the value of a project as a credit in the case of solar as a pre-watt credit for wind. This could take off $6,000 off the cost of a standard-sized $20,000 solar system. So based off of that, and I'm actually reading from the Barron's cover story. So if you guys want to read a really, really good breakdown of this climate bill and maybe some idea generation, if you Google Barron's Renewable Energy, it is the cover story of tonight's Barron's. So if we think about where the subsidies are going to come in, where the tax credits are going to come in, let's say you were a homeowner and you were thinking about making the move, installing solar panels on your roof or whatnot. Well, now, how many people do you think are now going to be persuaded to actually pull the trigger on that deal? Because they get to take advantage of all of those different tax credits. It's probably going to be a lot of people, right? So what if we can identify the specific companies in the marketplace that provide those solutions? Okay, that provide solar installation. That provides, oh wow, check this out. Yeah, Sabrina Ferris' solar panels are expensive. So the business of, again, solar panels is definitely it's definitely not high gross margin. And the reason for this is because most of the production actually happens overseas or abroad in China, and especially since the supply chains have been all messed up due to a couple reasons we've been talking on the stream, mainly due to the zero COVID policy. It's definitely not a high margin business, but with all of these different credits and subsidies like that, it could increase the per share earnings of a lot of these companies, right, after tax credits and incentives and things like that. So it definitely could improve upon the per share earnings, or EPS. Ooh, look at that rat. That was massive, massive rat. Usually we'll see thousands of rats here. Hey, Brad is here. Good to see you, Brad. Let's see if we could see any more rats here. Enrico says, could you do a one-day walking tour through the Manhattan School of Music? I would, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed in there. I don't know if I know anybody in there, to be quite honest. All right, guys, it is hydration hour. We've been streaming for about an hour and 30 minutes. So I will take a drink of water. So a little bit of an intermission here. Joan is here. Good to see you, Joan. So as we've been talking about the transition, right? Transition from non-renewables to renewables, I think it's important to take this into consideration. So here's some context, and this comes right out of the Barron's article. It says, as a rule, energy transitions don't happen quickly. It took some 200 years for coal to supplant wood as the world's leading source of energy. The rise of oil wasn't much faster. After the first oil rush in Pennsylvania in 1959, more than a century passed before crude topped coal. The age of renewable energy, by comparison, is coming on with lightning speed. Sources of energy like solar panels that seemed like a tree hugger technology less than a decade ago have become key parts of a baseload electricity generation system. Wind turbines now produce more power than the entire United States in 1950 alone. Electric vehicles accounted for 5% of new car sales, a tipping point that in other countries had led to 25% adoption within 4 years, from 20% in 2010. So I'm going to take a drink of water, and then we're going to sort of unpack that for those of you who are just joining. I think everybody could agree that we need to hurry up with the transition. Hurry up with the transition to renewables, but we need to do it in a way that's sustainable. So if it took us 200 years, right, to go from wood to coal, and another couple decades to go all the way back from coal to gas, well, why do we think it's going to take a couple of years to go from non-renewables to all renewables? So again, as I said at the beginning of the stream, what I propose is that we still invest in the renewable energy infrastructure, but while we're still running a lot of these non-renewables. So I think we're closing down a lot of the coal power plants, a lot of the nuclear power plants a little bit prematurely. And I think there's a little bit of, oh, everybody, I think we have to go out the other way. I think this way is closed. We will try to exit this way. Maybe we'll be locked in the park tonight. But I think it's more important to be realistic and make sure we have the infrastructure available. Because don't get me wrong, wind and solar are very good, but the main problem that we're having now is it's not always windy and it's not always sunny. So when it's windy and when it's sunny, we need a way to harness and store that energy to be used at a later date at another time. So once we invest into that battery technology, expanding the storage capabilities, then I think we could slowly transition away, but we should not do that prematurely. Hey, Media is here. Good to see you. Welcome. G. Shep says, will rats eat out of your hand? I wonder if squirrels will. I don't think I want to find out, to be quite honest. I definitely don't think I want to find out. But G. Shep, good to see you. Sonia C. says, oh, I think I know where you are. There's an optometry school nearby. Yeah, there is. I think it's a SUNY school too in the State University in New York. But yeah, you're right. There definitely is. Hey, Ninja Gamer is here, welcome. Brad says, I watched a documentary on HBO about fracking in Pennsylvania called Gasland. People complained about the water supply. I think I watched that same documentary too. Like the water was turning all yellow. Yeah, that was a wild documentary. I think I actually saw that, or I may have seen clips of it. So right now we are looking at the one and only Bank of America Tower as well as Salesforce Tower. Somebody says, is the lawn still closed? I think it closes at dusk. So once the sun goes down, that's when the lawn closes. Hey, somebody says, I just came back from New York for the first time and it was incredible. Well, that's good news. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Glad you enjoyed New York. Hopefully you come back pretty soon. Hey, Billy's is with any addition like hours on oil. Just like anything else, stopping cold turkey could be very dangerous. Agreed. I definitely agree with that. And another thing is you need to sort of scale this up because it's very expensive, right? So obviously solar is not as expensive as it was before. Ooh, there's another rat. That was huge. But I think as production on a mass scale happens, prices are going to come down. But again, you need the infrastructure in place. But again, with this bill, I think there's going to be a ton of opportunities for investment. And a lot of these particular stocks are going to go up 10x over the next 20-odd years. Hey, Felipe, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate it. Thank you for being so kind. We are now overlooking the Stephen Schwarzman building right here at Bryant Park, as well as the One Vanderbilt building. Cynthia B says, I want to go back in the fall as well. Yeah, I would say the fall is probably one of the best times to visit New York. I would say. The fall is probably one of the best times to visit New York, hands down. Just because it's not so hot and humid. And if you're lucky enough to go to Central Park, you'll see all the leaves changing, all the foliage, which is awesome. Somebody, or Brad says, has the rent gone up 50% in New York City? Well, we got some interesting housing data out of Douglas Elliman. And they said that for the first time ever, so for 6 consecutive months, rents have been on the rise in New York City. So the average rent on the island of Manhattan has now increased from $5,000 last month to $5,113. So it continues to go up and up and up. Oh, Patrick Bateman says, hello, Walks to Wall Street. I'm Patrick Bateman. Pleased to meet you. Patrick, good to see you, man. How is the firm doing? How's the firm doing? But what's also crazy, and obviously the average is not a good statistic to look at because places like Billionaires Row, Soho, Tribeca can really skew the statistics. But even the median rent, I think, is now surpassed $4,500 for the first time. So definitely pretty expensive. But as you go uptown, like towards Hamilton Heights and things like that, you can find cheap rent. This is the Salesforce Tower. So Mark Benioff's company, famous for software as a service under the ticker symbol CRM. Now, a couple nights ago, we were actually talking about work collaboration tools such as Microsoft Teams and Slack. And the funny thing is, Salesforce made an acquisition of Slack about 2 years ago. And it used to be a publicly traded company under the ticker symbol WORK. But if you look at the adoption curves of a collaboration tool like Slack and Microsoft Teams, it's not even close. You can't even compare the two. There's way more users of Microsoft Teams than there are of Slack. It's probably because Microsoft Teams comes stock with any subscription to MS 365 or Office 365. Hey Andre, thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate it. Thanks for being so kind. Lil Yells, Salesforce is a genius platform, super intuitive and runs laps around the competitors. You're right, it is a little bit of a premium product, but at my last tech company that I worked at, Salesforce was really good for API integrations into other, let's say, lead generation tools. So I would use like Zoom Info, I would use Outreach, is another good tool there. So they integrate really, really well with other pieces of software. So we're standing right outside of the Bank of America Tower, and check out that view of the Empire State Building. Jay says, Tom, would you charge for a tour? Or what would you charge for a tour? I don't think I would charge for a tour, to be honest. So there is other CRM tools, right? As opposed to using Salesforce. So the one that I use now is called Zoho. Has anybody heard of Zoho? It's actually pretty decent. It's a little bit more affordable than your traditional Salesforce. It does integrate well with other tools, but it's a little bit cheaper on the price point. So I think if you're a startup company, maybe you're a small to medium-sized business, Zoho may be a little bit better from you from a cost perspective, to be honest. But if you guys are enjoying the stream tonight, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We do these live streams about 5 days a week between New York City and Miami, and we'd love to have you here. Lil Yell says, I use Zoho for single sign-on at my smaller company before my current job. Yeah, Zoho is pretty decent. It's pretty decent. So Lil Yell, was your company prior to this company, was it Fortune 500, Fortune 50, small to medium-sized business? Was it a startup? What do you think? But now we're looking at the One Vanderbilt building, and we're gonna head up towards Radio City Music Hall. Hey, Lockjaw's here. Good to see you, Lockjaw. Trust you're well. Omani says, what is Steinway and Son? So Steinway is the very, very expensive piano store. So I believe some of the pianos can go for more than $100,000, if that's even believable. But a really, really nice grand piano could easily run $25,000 plus for a really nice grand piano. You know, I was walking up 57th Street one day, and they were actually using a crane to bring in a piano to one of the apartments. So this is when they were building one of the buildings on Billionaires Row. So there was no windows on the floors or anything, and they were using a crane literally to lift this massive grand piano into the apartment. I think this was right around the time where they were just putting the finishing touches on the Steinway building. If the battery doesn't die, I could show you guys the exact building, the Steinway building. Disney Matt, good to see you. Yeah, the LT Prods is $500K for some in some instances. That's crazy. $500,000 for a piano. Look, I mean, if you have the money and you're into music, I mean, go for it. Somebody says, how would they get it out? I mean, they probably have They probably have those big freight elevators. What I'm assuming is that the freight elevators weren't functional or operational at the time. So fun fact, I know you guys all know, but we do have a lot of new people on the stream. So this is where I used to work, right here at the Marsh McLennan Building, 1166. And we actually had one of the largest and most successful quantitative hedge funds in our building called D.E. Shaw. And D.E. Shaw, I believe, was Jeff Bezos' first job out of college. He was a hedge fund analyst at D.E. Shaw. Wow, Roberts is the cheapest Steinway piano is 70 grand. Oh my God. Crazy. That's the cheapest? You know, now I'm interested to see how much revenue they do a year. If you guys had to guess, how much revenue do you think Steinway and Sons does every year? If we had to guess. Maybe somebody could Google that. I think that would be interesting to find out. Hey, Abstract Angels says, hey Tom, thanks for what you do. Thank you so much for the 2 CAD or 2 Canadian. I appreciate the support. Thank you for the donation. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you're enjoying. So now we're walking up 6th Avenue, passing West 47th Street. And we're about to pass the News Corporation building, where they actually just reported earnings last week. So it was funny, and I think I already told you guys this a couple times on the stream, but I was looking at the advertising revenue of News Corp. So their advertising revenue is still about 48% print advertising. So as opposed to digital advertising, selling or running digital ads on a platform like the Wall Street Journal or Barron's or Investors Business Daily, they still have about 48% of their revenue coming from physical paper or physical print advertising. So really interesting there. But I guess that makes sense, right? Because who reads the physical copy of the Wall Street Journal or Barron's or Investors Business Daily? It's probably, you know, older men and women who are very, very well established and successful in their careers. Maybe they're hedge fund managers, maybe they are C-level executives at companies. So I could definitely see how the advertising dollars could be well spent. Mark Davis is here. What's up, Mark? Martin says, it's amazing how horrible the acting was back then. Lil Yell says, I read the physical Wall Street Journal for what it's worth. I do too. And I think the reason for that is because I tend to get a headache if I read the online version, really, of anything. Mike C says, I just realized there are no newsstands in New York anymore. There's a couple, but we don't really see them at night. They close down at night. But there's actually quite a bit. I sometimes, like if the paper doesn't get delivered to my house, I'll go and buy it at like a newsstand. But the ones I tend to shop at are usually in Penn Station. So like the Hudson newsstands, I'm sure you guys have probably seen it. All right, so we're about to pass the Halal guys. I mean, not Halal guys, the Adele's famous. Check out, this is one of my favorite fountains here at 1251 Avenue of the Americas. Wow, Roberts' Steinway actually filed for an IPO earlier this year. I did not know that. Steinway's profitable net income rose 14.4% to about $59.3 million for the year ended December 31st from $51.8 million in 2022. Wow. Well, I mean, they did. I wonder how much I wonder what their gross margins are. Do they release any of that? I wonder what their gross margins are on those pianos. Probably pretty high. Yeah, it's definitely a top 5 fountain. Hey, Lloyd Jr. says, I live in Queens, New York City. I don't go to the city and I live there. Well, thank you for watching. Hopefully you're enjoying the streams. Check out how long the line is for Adele's Famous. G Shep says, hey Tom, where's the famous view of the Empire State Building on 5th Avenue? The famous view? I mean, I think my favorite view is probably from Park Avenue. I'm not sure if we'll get up there today, but that is one of my favorites from Park. Yeah, Bagels and Walkers, like the lines got a lot longer as we were talking about it. So usually the rule of thumb is if you go to Adele's Famous and the line is further back than the 3rd flagpole, it's going to be like a 2-hour wait. So this line is probably about 3 hours plus, I'd say. Jay says, is this a safe family trip? Yeah, I would say so. This is another brand new restaurant that just opened here. I think this is a Greek restaurant that we were talking about. But here's Radio City Music Hall. I know, somebody says, who would wait on that line? It's seriously nuts. To be honest, if you've had it before, you would consider waiting on that line maybe once every couple months. Because that is like a really, really, really good place. I don't even know how I could explain it, but that is probably the best halal food I've ever had in my life, right at that place. And Fred X is here, says FOMO. Martin says, Tom, I've never seen the Plaza Hotel. Really? We stream past the Plaza Hotel a lot. A lot.
Sure.
You know, tonight, tomorrow night, which is Sunday, we will be doing our Market to Look Ahead stream, in which case we will be covering the daily events that will be happening on Wall Street next week. We will start that stream off in Lower Manhattan. Here's the Barclays Investment Bank here. And we will be taking the Staten Island Ferry. So Sundays we usually take the Staten Island Ferry, so we will be doing that tomorrow. And from there, we will probably walk all the way up to the Little Island. I don't think I've ever streamed from there before. I think we've walked maybe a couple avenues past it, but I don't think we've actually been in there. So we'll definitely do that. Hey, Enrico says, Tom, I thank God for your videos. Blessings. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. So speaking of that, everybody, I think last night, I didn't even notice when we were doing the stream, but last night we did hit 18,000 people. So that is wild. So I thank you guys very, very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to do the live streams for you guys each night. So thank you so much. And welcome to all of our new viewers that we've added. It's a blast. I love doing it. Lil Yell says Times Square is waiting, Tom. Will you answer the call? You know, I think since I have to get the train anyway, we may just quickly look down Times Square. I don't think we may walk through it, but I think we'll end the stream there. We'll just see what it's looking like. We'll check it out. It's probably packed today, being that it's a Saturday night. It's probably mobbed, but we'll see. Wow, it looks like something's going on here. Look at all these people. It looks like there must be a Broadway show getting out. Everybody, check out this massive crowd of people. But look at all this trash here. Oh my God. There's probably like what, a Broadway show getting let out or something? Ah, it could be Hugh Jackman coming out. Maybe. It's definitely possible. I forget which one he's doing. Does anybody know the name of the Broadway show that Hugh Jackman is in? Hey, Jason Francis, what's up? Good to see you. Hope you're well, Jason. Music Man, says Clarence Jackson. I don't know. I don't really know too many of the. I don't know too many of the. I think you guys are right. Martin says, you gonna wait in line for Joe's? Probably not. I wonder how many. I wonder how much money it is for a ticket. Nice. Jay says, Tom, do you know Joe Noto? I don't know Joe. I do not. Who is Joe? What is he? Is he a musician? So one of my only experiences with Broadway plays, I almost got fired from my job. It's actually a pretty funny story. So this is when Hamilton first came out, and one of my clients really wanted to see Hamilton, and I was like, yeah, I'll take it, no big deal. And he's like, really? And I was like, yeah, no big deal, I'll take you to Hamilton, we'll see, whatever. Yeah, it turns out it was a little bit extended at a budget, but we did close the deal. But I was oblivious. But at the time, Hamilton's tickets were going for over $1,000. I think now they're like $200, but at the time it was like the show was always sold out. Hey, Abstract Angel Artist, thank you so much for the $2 donation. You are way too kind. Marty Lewis is Tom Music Man. The ticket prices are from $99 to $5.99. Copy that. Western Mass Dave's like, I love the Hamilton story. I know, I had no idea. And my client, he said to me like 2 times, like, are you sure? He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, no big deal. And then I go back to the office negotiating the T&E, and my boss is like, he's like, are you kidding me? He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, we got to do it. I promised him it. I'm like, I'll pay for it on my own. But we wound up expensing it. The customer already had a lot of business with us, but look, it was well worth it. But I definitely learned my lesson. I have to stay up to date on the cost of a lot of these Broadway shows. I think the total was like $3,500. I think I set the record in the company for a one-night T&E. So, hey, Love Supremacist is here. Says, how's it going? Good to see you. Yeah, abstract artist says it looks like New York City is not dead anymore. You know, this is the very famous Junior's restaurant, very famous Junior's Cheesecake. The original one is actually outside of Atlantic Terminal, Brooklyn, which I used to go to quite often. Bagels and Walks is Junior's is delicious. You know, surprisingly, the best cheesecake I've ever had in New York was actually at Becco's. If you guys go to Becco's and you get the cheesecake, that is the best cheesecake I've ever had in the city. Not to be biased, because I always talk about Becco, but definitely is the best. CT says, Tom, great restaurant on 46th Street called Sicily. Highly recommended, across the street from Becco. Wow, I'm gonna have to take a screenshot and go there. But for those of you who are just joining, after the live stream, we will be posting our live stream recap on the YouTube community page. So not to worry if you missed tonight's topic. We will be doing a recap on the community page where you guys could check it out for yourself. This is the Krispy Kreme place. I've actually never been to this one. I have been to the one in Penn Station near the Amtrak. So now we are walking down Broadway, past 48th. And we are right outside Morgan Stanley, as well as the one and only Barclays Investment Bank. FredEx is hanging left.
Yes, you're right.
Andy is here. What's up, Andy? Andy, how's the weather in South Korea? Has it improved? All of my South Korean friends are saying that it's been absolutely horrible, horrible weather as of late. Hopefully things are improving for you over there in South Korea, my friend. Lil yells like Morgan Stanley. So from here you could actually see a pretty clear view of where they drop the ball on New Year's Eve. All the way up there. You can still see it says 2022. We should be doing a live stream here when it turns 2023.
Oh, and I think the camera's in focus. Mike sees his Krispy Kreme donuts are horrible. Yeah, I'm not a big donut guy, but they're all right, I guess, every once in a while. Hey, Disney Matt, good to see you. Andy says, yes, the weather is cloudy, but it's all good. Thank you, Tom. What's up, Andy? E says, hey, Tom, good evening. Just came from Ocean City. Awesome, love that. So I'm not sure what this building is going to be, but it's supposed to look amazing when it's done. There's so much new construction here in Times Square. This is really the eye of the beast here. But everybody, I think we are going to end it here, my friends. So this was a blast. It was a fun stream. Thank you for joining. If you guys enjoyed tonight's live stream, feel free to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We will be back here tomorrow live at 8:30 Eastern Time, where we will be taking the Staten Island Ferry and walking all the way back up to the one and only Little Island, if we can make it there, if the phone lasts. E says, wow, Tom, I just got to the live stream. Yeah, not to worry, if you guys missed tonight's live stream, as always, I will be posting the re-upload, and in addition to that, I will be posting the live stream recap on my YouTube community page, so you can see all of the important topics of conversation we talked about on tonight's stream. So feel free to, oh, that guy has a bird on his shoulder. So feel free to hit the subscribe button, leave a like on the video, and we will be back here tomorrow. And to the mighty bull, have a good night wherever you are, because there's always a bull market somewhere, and you just need to know where to look. I'll see everybody right back here tomorrow. You know, sometimes on the stream I have a hard time hitting the off button.
Nerd.
All right, take it easy, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow, 8:30.